Headphone warning incoming. I'm not sure how loud this intro is, but it shouldn't be too bad. Right, it's a Thursday night, and that means it's Jungle Drums time. Every week Thursday at 9 PM here on Beam, we have Jungle Drums, where it's just a case really of Jungle drumming on about stuff with his friends and other guests. So let me, in fact, since I'm a mod, I'm going to drag him down in here. Haha, see, you didn't have a choice about that. I dragged you down into the channel.
I told him to move, but he wouldn't listen.
You know
getting there, okay?
No
I
problem.
was getting there.
No
Do you want
rush.
to get in there? I should actually pause my game so I can talk.
Oh, always a bonus. Always. Excuse me while I just get a quick sip of tea here. I'm just quite happy the Discord overlays are working. Earlier they were all mucked up. Something on the back end where obviously you can see here where it says my name and Gimboyd and Sergeant J. Earlier it was had a big white screen saying could not connect to server and stuff. But it's been rectified. Rectified. I was actually just on Twitter just now. I just had a message from someone about something that has actually got me really, really excited about. I won't talk about it this evening. Not on stream. I'll talk about it later with you guys. But yeah, something that has kind of caught me by surprise and I'm quite happy about. But anyway, right, so as you know, each week we've talked about gaming stuff. We've had one week we talked all about games. We've had another week where we're kind of tech heavy. And I think it's fair to say that this evening, I think we've got a decent little balance going. There's some tech stuff, there's some gaming stuff. In fact, this first item, which I'd seen earlier, I'm sure I saw it the other day actually. This article is originally from Trusted Reviews, and it's about Outlast 2 being banned in Australia. Now, if you're familiar with Australia's track record, their board that does the official ratings, they have kind of, been quite severe in the past. For example, Fallout 3 was banned, Hotline Miami 2 was banned, and even South Park, The Stick of Truth, was refused classification. Now, this is the thing to understand. It's weird. It's not that they are kind of banning the game, but what it is, how like in each country they rate games, whether it's an 18 over here, whether it's an M, so on and so forth. So what Australia does is they refuse to classify a game. And so in the country, if it's not classified, it can't be sold. So, it's not like they're actually banning it, but it works out that it is. Yeah, it's an effective ban. And what's funnier too is that these decisions are actually made in court. This was on March 15th. There was a court ruling, stating that Outlast 2 has been confirmed to depict, express, or otherwise deal with matters of sex, drug misuse, or addiction, crime, cruelty, violence, or revolting or abhorrent phenomena in such a way that offend against the standards of morality, decency, and propriety, generally accepted by reasonable adults to the extent that they should not be classified. What in the hell?
Basically, Australia's government and judicial system think their citizens are a bunch of babies who can't look at this content.
How does that even begin to get into court? How does that even come up as a conversation that we need to take this to court?
See, I don't know. I don't know how it honestly works in Australia. It's just a case of everything has to... I suppose what happens is this. This is just me trying to guesstimate what happens is that, the game gets submitted, the board says, nope, we're not classifying it, and then maybe the dev goes, oh, well, wait a minute, they appeal it, and then maybe it's when they appeal the decision that it goes to court. I don't know. Unless maybe all these decisions are actually done in a court environment.
This means that they must have either somebody that plays games that come out to make sure they're okay, or something.
Oh yeah, every country has that.
B, or B, somebody's just gone and complained about it. One of the two. It's just, it amazes me, it really does.
It's just, I can understand, a country or, a government or a board trying to protect the interests of its public and whatnot. But, you know, if the game's like an 18, like if it has to be an adult that buys it, I don't see the harm. I mean, look at Game of Thrones. I mean, if you look at Game of Thrones and how much inappropriate content that has, you know, incest, sexualized violence, actual just violence itself, yet, you know, it's accepted everywhere and really popular. It feels, I thought we'd gotten away from this kind of, like, you know, extreme censorship. Because, I mean, video games nowadays, you know, they're a medium, aren't they? They're a nice, you know, the devs, they pour their heart and soul into making a game, and they basically have a government tell you, you know what you made is disgusting, horrible, and our citizens are going to have none of it. It just, I don't know how to feel about it. It's strange.
It is weird. Obviously, it's been banned, but say somebody does get it, what happens to them?
Oh, see, I'm not sure if they had an issue like that in the past with a game. Because, see, what happens, Jay, is that if the game's banned, well, or, I mean, we're using the term banned, but it's been refused classification.
Yeah.
So what then the devs have to do is they have to edit it, tweak it, and resubmit it. So there's like a few games that Germany did the same within the past. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I think maybe even Return to Castle Wolfenstein, the Quake 3 one. I think that had to be edited and then to take all the Nazi paraphernalia out of it. But anyway, you know, I have a feeling that if you smuggled in a copy of the game over there, it would be treated as contraband. The thing is, though, I don't know if you've ever seen on TV the Australian Border Patrol thing, the custom agents.
No.
Dude, they're hardcore. That you cannot smuggle anything into Australia.
Yeah, but the other thing as well is in the world we now live in of I can digitally download it, and there is ways to get around region lock. So I mean, does that just go under the radar for that sort of stuff, or is that somehow picked up? I mean, I
don't know. I mean, I think you're right. I think if you work your way around it and change your region, unless, you know, they magically, you know, maybe they do have to add a thing in where if it detects you've got an Australian IP address, maybe, I don't know. I don't know.
It seems like a lot of effort considering just for a video game. Really.
Yeah.
The amount of work to have to go into and almost say infrastructure for something like that to be able to stop. Mm-hmm. As you say, if you were to change your reads and then it'd be able to work out, obviously, the area and go, no, you can't download this. Your internet's been shut off.
It's a bit strange.
I find it weird. I've always found it weird when games get banned or stopped because
it's not even uncommon in Australia.
I personally just find it stupid.
I mean, Fallout 3.
Oh, I got offended by it. So what?
It just, you know, I mean, I know years ago we went, you know, there was these huge things in the news about, oh, you know, games create serial killers and all this type of shit, and I honestly thought we'd kind of been there, done that, and that was over with.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that there was no longer that much controversy, unless you're talking about, like, like if a dev made some horrible type of simulator that depicted sexual violence, I can understand banning something like that.
Or even something of like a paedophilic nature. Then
stuff like that, you know, get that.
Like that.
But a game that, okay, I have to admit, I do have Outlast, but I've never actually played it. But from what I get, it's like a horror type thing, right? Like an adventure-y first-person horror.
It's a horror-y walking simulator hybrid-y thingy.
Right? So, I mean,
there's not much to it. You just hide from a monster, I believe.
I mean, how bad can it be? Like, when you think of some of the other older games, I mean, I think the main issue with this one, if I read correctly, is that there was a depiction of sexualized violence. And I think that's the sticky wicket. I think that's
probably where
the
line's been drawn for them.
I think you can get away with just about anything in a game except maybe that, because I think most people feel uncomfortable. And I remember there's an anime, Elfen Lied, which I absolutely love. An amazing anime, really, really good. But the very first episode, whilst you don't see it, you know it's inferred and you hear sexualized violence, and it does, like, even, you know, me, I've got tough skin, and that made me feel uncomfortable. It honestly did. Just like, you know, so I get it. If that's the kind of the sticky wicket, if that's the real reason it got banned, then okay, I can kind of understand. But on the flip side, you know, censorship.
There's still a double standard.
Yeah.
Because it's a video game, it's not allowed. If it was a film or a book,
yes,
or any other form of media,
50 Shades of Grey.
Well, it's as you say, when you come back to this whole entire thing of them blaming violence and serial killers coming out because of games, and it's like you've had all these movies around for so much longer, and yet you don't pin the blame on anything like that.
No, it's so.
when film was new.
It's
blamed for everything.
It's funny. I mean, okay, given my job that I was doing, right? You know, I always stayed up to date with all the frippin', you know, the different psychology weeklies and all that type of shit. And it's a relatively new science, but I can't remember the name of it. But the this branch of psychology that is actually looking into like video games. There is a whole branch of it, and it's so young that they don't have enough data to go off, but really quite interesting that it has actually, you know, people have master's degrees and PhDs into like the psychology of what video games do to children and whatnot, but it's early days for that stuff. But yeah, so Outlast 2, not to see, you know, hopefully it will be okay. Right, this next one, I'd found this on The Verge, and in fact it's not just on The Verge, it's everywhere, it's all over the place, and it's about how Microsoft is adding game chat transcription to Xbox One and Windows 10. Now, let's just put this in the context for a bit, right? What they're saying is that the whole point of this is like they're going to be introducing it into Halo Wars 2, right? And so they're trying to make it more accessible to people, right? It's designed to basically kind of help you, you know, help you if you've got maybe, I know it might sound funny, but if you have maybe visual issues, right? You're managing still to play the game, but, you know, maybe, you know, you can't, or maybe it's just a case you can't actually read, you know, hey, people that are dyslexic, you know, or even illiterate, I can get that, or likewise maybe, you know, a deaf player who wants to still play video games, because there's a lot of them out there, you know. I like the idea of this. It's basically supposed to be able to transcribe other players' voices in the text, and it's, you know, also going to do the flip side of that. Likewise, they're trying to make it, yeah, and it sounds really, really neat. You know, whether or not
in theory.
Yeah, in theory. In theory.
We've all used.
I can't wait to see the funny stuff that comes out in text in the game. You're like, what?
You ever tried to get Cortana to work on Windows 10 or Xbox? Half the time you should be like, ew. Don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, especially up here, I'm quite lucky since my accent's quite mangled and it's, you know, somewhat slightly American or Canadian or something. You know, but you know, most folk in Scotland like have a hell of a time with any kind of voice recognition stuff. You know, like the iPhone's really bad for it, and like any other phone, Google, all that stuff. You try talking into
strong regional accents really do throw it off.
Yeah, but it sounds cool. It's only at this moment. It's specifically in that game. They haven't said. In fact, well, it sounds like it won't be available as part of the party chat option at this point in time. It's only going to be supported in games directly. So that's kind of cool. But I just thought it was really interesting, you know, that so they're going to be piloting it on the Xbox One and Windows 10 very shortly, in Halo Wars 2. A game that, well, all of us were really super excited about and we all pre-order, right?
I've never enjoyed Halo Wars.
Yes.
If I'm going to play an
Crickets.
RTS, I'll just reinstall StarCraft.
Yeah.
Or I'll dig out Command and Conquer as well, and I like them too.
Now, it'll be interesting to see how that works and what kind of voice it'll be. What do you think? Well, suppose if each game can...
I assume we probably use the Cortana voice.
Yeah, surely. One would think.
Someone talks in a robotic female voice.
Right, this latest one actually, Jay might be able to give us some insight if he's had this issue or not. This was on Tech Radar, and according to Tech Radar, the latest PlayStation 4 update is reportedly causing Wi-Fi woes. So I suppose the first question is, have you turned on your PS4 lately?
Yeah, let's just end me being the expert on this for a second. 2 reasons. One, I haven't turned my PS4 for about a month now. I do need to. I've got loads of games in there to play, but obviously things like Wildlands and stuff. Secondly, more importantly, I'm a part of the hashtag Wired Master Race, and I will always use these.
Yeah. And that
one
makes
of those lovely,
sense.
One of those lovely little Devlo plugs. This is just fantastic.
Well, because what's funny about... You know how, like, on the Xbox, right? As soon as you plug in an Ethernet cable, it disables the Wi-Fi on an Xbox. A PS4, it doesn't. You have to actually go and disable... You have to go into your settings and disable your Wi-Fi. Because it's quite funny. Like, if you had... Say if you actually plugged in your Wi-Fi info in your PS4...
Yeah.
And you had it plugged into the Ethernet, it would actually try to bounce back and forth. And that's not this update, that's just the way it's been. It's quite... The PS4 is weird that way.
Oh, I know they're weird, like get rid of the physical port.
I've just read the fix to this new problem.
Oh yeah, getting rid of your Wi-Fi part.
Get rid of
That sounds
free Wi-Fi for
awesome.
everyone nearby.
That is like a top security tip. Hey everyone out there, you know what? If you're having any kind of issues, just get rid of
your
the
Wi-Fi
password.
password. You don't need that. Let people use it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, you know, I suppose I should also say maybe also hide your broadcast ID. If you hide your SSID, then at least no one's going to stumble on it by accident. They'd have to be actively looking for it. Which that's a really good tip for anyone in the house. You should always try to disable the broadcast SSID. So then that way it means, you know, especially if you set up a custom one. So like if you like say yours, Jay, says Jay's Wi-Fi, you know, so that way if I come to your house and I scan for wireless, it'll show nothing. But if I put in connect to Jay's Wi-Fi, then it will. That's something that many folk don't bother with. Most folk get their shit, you know, from whoever they have their internet from, and just leave everything at default anyway.
There are also some devices that you can't just put that in. It has to scan for.
True.
It's annoying.
True. So anyway, what was the meat of this PS? What was it actually doing, Joe? This update to the PS4.
I mean, you're asking someone that doesn't have one. No, it's not a PlayStation console with PS2. I can look it up.
Because well, just what I'm glimpsing at is that. So it was. They just recently released the 4.50 firmware upgrade, and one of the biggest things that this was bringing was the external hard drive support for game install, something that us Xbox folk have had for quite some time. And it was also going to do some other things. I think it was going to upgrade some other features and whatnot.
Custom wallpapers.
Yeah, see.
Quick menu refresh.
See.
Simplified notification list.
Sounding good.
Post on PlayStation Network activity feeds.
Not bad. So it brings all that to the table, but then...
And 3D Blu-rays and PSVR.
Oh, see. Wow. That's a nice update. Aside from the fact that people can't connect to Wi-Fi. Even it says here that they try connecting to the network and they just keep getting failed notifications. Whereas other people reported that the console's actually telling them that, hey, the Wi-Fi password you put in, that's wrong. That's not the right password. Even so, it actually is. But as Jay said, and why Jay wouldn't have noticed, is that if you're connecting with an Ethernet cable, you know, no issues. Interesting. So there you go. So if you're out there,
I see how the comments changed over time when it released, but they stopped they stopped comments after a month of it going up. So
Okay.
there aren't any new comments.
Got you.
Let's have fun with that.
What's interesting here is that it says, at the moment, Sony hasn't posted any acknowledgement that the update has caused a problem. And most users say they're being told to contact their internet service provider for help.
You see, this is you can't just blame Sony for this sort of thing. This is what a lot of companies sort of started to do now.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly,
Like when
pin the
Nintendo
blame on
said-
somebody else.
Yep.
Nintendo with their Switch were saying, "Oh, there's no widespread problem."
Oh, no, yes. No, it's not. Yep.
Stuff. Like, no, that's not an issue. That's only a very few people. It's like
I was reading...
you bury your hand in head in the sand sort of job, isn't it?
Yeah, I was reading more stuff about the Switch today, and just it's amazing because, like, you know, some folk are having no issues, but I think the thing that really strikes me funny about that Switch, aside from the Joy-Con issue, aside from performance issue, aside from dead pixels and all that other stuff, is just the very fact that people's screens are getting scratched to all hell by putting it in the dock. You know, it just...
Yeah. It's silly.
Oh my. But aside from that, look, the PS4...
It works better out of it.
Aside from this firmware, you know, the PS4 is a great console. It's been selling like hotcakes. It has been the best-selling console for quite some time, and it's only been recently that the Xbox One has actually gained a bit of momentum. You know, so we're not trying to dog on the PS4 by any means.
The
You know,
PS4's keeping their momentum, their Pro version, but I want to see what happens when Scorpio hits the mark.
yes, yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely.
It's interesting. It's interesting to watch.
Um,
And then move on to the next one. Can we
mhm.
bring forward the one I added from the BBC, seeing that's also PlayStation?
Yeah,
Making it
absolutely.
PlayStation in one big chunk.
Absolutely. You go ahead, kick it off, Joe. You kick it off.
Apparently, Sony decided to, they're going to release PlayStation Plus, essentially, the PC. So you'll be able to, it's not PlayStation, PlayStation Now, which is the game streaming service. And people use it in a minute to stream like old PS3 games to the PS4 and to PCs. But apparently they're going to add a lot newer like PS4 games. So you may eventually be able to play Resogun, Bloodborne, the Order 88s, and Horizon Zero Dawn.
Right, so yeah, it says it's going to start a small scale trials with some of the games over the next few weeks.
Yes.
Obviously, that's a subscription-based service. They'll do that anyway in the first place.
So a lot of people will definitely play that subscription to not have to play it on a console.
Mm-hmm.
Probably will do.
Well, I mean,
£300 box, or you can just use the PC. Haven't played it.
I mean, that looks to me like quite a smart move. You know, to the demographic that's out there that doesn't have a PlayStation, but maybe likes the idea of certain PlayStation games. You know, like, oh wow, you know, I'd like to be able to play that, I'd like to be able to play this, but oh, you know what, I'm not going to spend however much a PlayStation is these days and whatnot. You know, whereas saying, okay, look, and well, in our money, £12.99, £13 a month for the ability to access that library from PC. Now, of course, we don't know what's going to be available. I see that here it says currently there's 483 older games that are available via that service.
Yeah,
However, it's unlikely that all of these are going to be available straight away. But
even then, I'd do it play games. I mean, I'm not going to spend £1 on a box.
yeah, I mean, you know, I'd probably
Somebody
give it
I
a
want to
try at least.
I won't play Bloodborne.
The thing is, I mean, taking a look at this, and obviously I think what was discussed last week, maybe, or week before that, of obviously what Xbox are planning on doing as well.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
So, I mean, how do you compare what PS4 are looking to want to do, even with their already big games library against out of Xbox? Because from looking at that side of things, PS4 almost seems to have the better. PlayStation almost seems to have the better. PlayStation almost seems to have the better
So
deal, don't
is
they?
this reactionary then?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, because PlayStation have already got this PS Now subscription, haven't they? Where you can
Yeah, but that's
pay
only
this.
that was reactionary to the backwards compatibility announcement of
Yeah, and
Xbox One.
that was
their
that
solution.
now has got a massive life because I actually considered it because there are a lot of games in there I looked at,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the point. Personally, I think it's really bigger than what Xbox's version is going to be anyway. But now they're looking to do this as well. Again, is this
Well,
as
Xbox
you
is going
say?
to be rotating the games out, aren't they?
Yeah, well, this is the thing though. Whereas obviously the PlayStation one is constant. You constantly have it there, which is the reason why I say is it still better than what the Xbox is going to be, and especially with now bringing this in, is that almost their sort of play, as you say, to further competition to Xbox.
I mean, you know, you're right. I mean, when you compare the two, this PlayStation option looks better. You know, that okay, hey, you pay this fee and you'll be able to, you know, stream these games. Okay, you're gonna need a decent internet speed, most likely, as it says here. But like you're saying, just the ability to play any of them. Whereas I honestly think the Xbox service that's coming, the Microsoft one, is a bit lackluster. That okay, yes, I get access to these games for that month, and if I want to keep them, I have to buy them. But oh hey, at least I'm getting them at a discount. That just, yeah, that's a very different package. That is.
I think I'd much rather pay, obviously, for the PlayStation side of things. Because, as you say, it's these games you don't have to worry about. Oh, I've got complete in the month. You can just go at your own pace and essentially get your money's worth the way you want to. I've never seen it as a bad thing because obviously I pay with things like Now TV and Netflix, which is essentially the same thing I'm paying.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
TV.
same. Yeah.
I could buy anyway. So I mean, when you add it up, like the actual cost and everything, it's a good deal. Right? If you get from, for example, this £12.99, like 2 or 3 games, if they're all games, 2 or 3 games out of it a month, and you're pretty much sort of looking at making your money back on it, essentially, compared to if you're going to buy the games. I mean, what, like I said, 12 quid a month, that's over 144 quid roughly, 12.99. That's the sort of money I'd spend in a couple of months on 2 games. Heck, Wildlands was essentially just over half of that in the space in one day. So, from obviously PlayStation already had it implemented anyway, but from their point of view and from Xbox's point of view, they're good, smart moves. Just I think Xbox haven't done it as well as PlayStation.
You know, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, even so, I don't currently own a PlayStation. I mean, I remember when I was a kid. I say kid because, yeah, I was barely a teenager. You know, and at first I didn't have a PlayStation, but I used to go to Blockbuster and we'd rent one like over the weekend. You know, and so there were like games like Destruction Derby and whatnot. You know, all these types of games that, you know, absolutely loved. And you know, eventually I did buy a PlayStation. Then when the PS2 came out, I bought that. I had a PSP. You know, so I definitely enjoyed the PlayStation. You know. So the thought of being able to access, you know, the PlayStation library, because I'm the same, I couldn't justify having another console unless it was maybe a Switch. But, you know, I can't see, like, well, I know that there's unique games on the PlayStation compared to the Xbox and vice versa, but I couldn't justify that to myself. But paying 13 quid a month to play, okay, maybe not the newest titles, but stuff that maybe I've missed out over the last, because hell, I would have got rid of my PS2 in 2003, so 14 years that I've missed out on PlayStation games.
This is the thing as well, though. Which is good about it is, this is something you can opt in and out of in terms of it's a subscription-based service, isn't it? So you could go, oh, there's these sort of games I want to play, buy it, and then go after a couple of months, I want to cancel. There's nothing else I want. I'll wait. Keep an eye on all the games on there, and then maybe 2 months later, I go, oh, they've added this, so I'll take this out. And like, I want to do at some point. I'll probably do something with this because there is games I've wanted to play, like Ico and Shadow Colossus, which I believe are on there because I'm pretty sure I searched and double check. So I want to play them at some point. But at the moment, obviously, with my limited game time in the first, I've got loads of games to play. That's sort of to the side at the moment. But yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. If you think about it, right? Depending on where you work and depending, on their firewall settings and whatnot, you could maybe in the next few years be, you know, at whatever software development company you're working for, and you could be in the office and playing these games. That's
I'm sorry to be slightly frowned upon and like that, but
well, maybe.
you've got a tab open, you're like, tab in,
They've
tab
got
out.
to prove it first.
Well, I mean,
because even if this is a streaming service, right?
Yeah.
As in now, the way I understand a streaming service, like when I think about how, you know, I've got that tablet and I can play my Xbox games. It doesn't. My tablet doesn't have to be that powerful, but it needs to have a bit of juice to it. But you know, the Xbox does all the work. So could this mean the same thing? Like, you know, if you've got a laptop, or let's not say laptop, but you know, like a tablet or something with a controller, or even like say you've got one of the big new smartphones that, you know, that's as big as your head, and you can get those game devices that clip onto it to make it like a controller. You know, is that going to be an option? Could you be playing Ico in your car? You know, I mean,
the thing is, it's all based around your internet connection, because obviously, this is going to sound like really almost hacks way of doing it, but if you've got a laptop somewhere and you're out and about, and you've got almost, depending how good your phone connected, it's unlimited data, and you just go, haha, put tethering on, connect, having a laugh. You can essentially, depending how much data this uses and how much tethering allowance you've got, you could just go on and think, I feel like I'm sitting around for half an hour on a train, I've got a decent internet connection. But then again, obviously stuff like on things like, if you lose your connection, you're going to lose your streaming.
Yeah.
So, but
because I've done that with my tablet. I mean, because my mobile's 4G, and so I mean, honestly, like just tonight, right? We were at the father-in-law's house for dinner, and I never turn my Wi-Fi on there. Like I never turn it, because my 4G connection is faster than his internet. You know, it's like so.
The thing is, it opens up so much possibilities.
I mean, what about yourself, Joe? Is this something that you could see yourself?
Well, it's an alternate option to spending 300 quid on a PlayStation.
I think this is quite.
Just play the games you want for a small amount. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Good towards mainly people like you that yourselves that have an Xbox but don't want a PlayStation, because it allows. So you look and you go, like for example, Horizon. I really want to play that, but I buy PlayStation. Yeah. Whereas you can look at this and go, hang on a minute, pay for it for a month, grab the game, enjoy it.
Do you think this is them accepting that exclusives isn't really working to sell their console? I think it's more just annoying.
I think it's partly that.
They're just not selling as many copies as they would be.
Well, I think you've got to look at the thing is, it's because technically, I would say technically it's not an exclusive once this comes out, but it's still something. It's only on that console. It's just almost their way, isn't it? Because not every single person that's got an Xbox is necessarily going to be able to have a PC. You know what I mean, you might just have people that just have.
Because quite frankly, I think the PlayStation 4's been selling consoles over the Xbox based on the fact it's slightly more powerful. Only slightly, but
yeah.
I'm not going to get into the argument about obviously what we call them now, exclusives, because I personally think it's all
exclusives is stupid. Yeah, there is no argument.
Yeah, I mean, it's really swings and roundabouts when you look at things like, oh hey, we've got Gears, you know, oh they've got Horizon Zero Dawn, oh yeah, well we've got this, oh yeah, but we've got, you know, and it's so petty, you know. I mean, I've always said to folk that get into these console wars, you know what the best platform is? The one that you enjoy. You know, that's the end of story. There's no PC master race. No, I mean, okay, sure. I mean, playing Project Cars at 12K, you know, on 4K monitors, a console can't compete with that. It's
not intended to.
You know.
No. Well, exactly.
And you know, it's right. It's like if you prefer using your mobile phone to play, you know, if like what's that thing you guys play, Clash Royale, right? Yeah. If that's their favorite game in the world, then that's cool. You know, all right, you know, no problem. So, you know, I just
technically that's not exclusive.
Yeah.
I mean, later.
But yeah, you know, I mean, just console wars are just so silly. There's swings and roundabouts. You know, I mean, on one hand, yeah, the PS4, you can't argue that it is graphically more powerful. You know, there are games that do, if you're doing a flat-out comparison, some look better on the PlayStation, some look better on the Xbox. Then you can get into app functionality. I think that the operating system on the Xbox is probably in a pretty good state, and hopefully it's going to get even better. You know, there's all these little niggly things. I mean, and to each their own. I mean, for me, the Xbox made sense because I like the idea, the integration it has with my PC, with, you know, like my phone and stuff. I like that ability to be able to kind of talk to all these multiple devices. I mean, the fact that I've got a huge... I mean, I know we're in this day and age of streaming music, but I still have a huge music library, like, on my hard drive. And the fact that my Xbox One can just browse through that, you know, freely, I like that. I like that ability. You know, same if I had movies or something on my PC. I mean, I know you could do the same now with the PlayStation, but, you know, at the time, that was a big selling point for me.
I hate exclusives.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Exclusively hated.
You get to a point when you stop looking. Look at the games I can get, and you go, yeah, but look at the games I'm not getting because they have exclusives. You don't win, you lose.
So I said,
You
so like
always
this for
lose.
people that, again, so like ourselves, that obviously have gone from PC gaming and enjoy PC still as well and still use it.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of have them built for that purpose. This is good for, well, obviously for me it's not a problem, I've got a PlayStation 4, so. But for those that don't, it's good, I think. It'll be interesting to see if, because obviously I know Xbox have obviously got the Microsoft games, and almost, well, they've still got these sort of streaming, haven't they, anyway, from the Xbox app, but that still requires the console, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it'll be interesting, because I obviously got the Xbox Play Anywhere games, which, as you say, is obviously like more the Microsoft side of ones, where you can, like,
Yeah.
for example, using Recall, which I still need to complete.
Yeah, same.
That can also be played on, and I'm more tempted to play on PC at some point as well. But as well as
It spoiled me to Play Anywhere because I did it with Recore and I've done it with Gears of War 4, where I started them on console, but then once I'd played them on the PC, I never touched them on console again because it was just night and day. Now, of course,
yeah.
everyone's going to vary. It is going to depend on your system, you know, and yeah, it just so happened that, well, mine actually runs those games beautifully, you know, so...
I've got SLI cards, so again, I'm
Yeah, you'll have
in the same.
no problem. No problem.
You've also got the fact that you play your console and your PC in the same place as well.
True.
But it'll be interesting to see if Xbox almost come back with something like this for the Xbox with their service. I can't remember if they said their service was going to do that or not. I think it was just from the Xbox, wasn't it? The games.
Yeah, I don't know if it was going to be available for Windows 10 as well or
I mean,
not.
you look at these services and it's not an almost we're doing this for free for our users' benefits. It is a money making. It's a business scheme. It's a money making scheme. And if Sony do something like this, even if you've got people from my Xboxes doing it, they're still giving Sony that revenue stream. Whereas obviously Xbox are then going to be sort of falling to the side with this game stream, especially if you compare again how much of the games library PlayStation will have on that compared to that of Xboxes.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see if Microsoft want to change anything they do with that, or if they decide to come out with something similar to this as well, or even more so see how Sony's goes and if there's any improvements they can make on it before they look at it, instead of just rushing out a build for it.
Yeah.
Because this has probably been in the pipeline for Sony for quite a while, I expect.
Yeah, most likely.
So obviously Xbox can't just suddenly throw one out of the wind, throw one out thin air, unless they've already got something in the pipework again that we don't know pipeline. But yeah, be interesting to see how they want to sort of fight that almost, or compete with it, to say be the correct term.
Well, now a few weeks back, we had discussed the Ryzen 7, the AMD processors that came out, and the ones that came out were the top of the line ones that AMD was bringing to the table. These were going to be the they are fast, but the big thing about them was the amount of cores, because these things were 8-core with SMT, which is AMD's version of hyper-threading. So, 16-core beasts that, since the release, there's been a lot. This has to be, I don't know how much you guys have seen of it, but oh my god, the amount of the flame wars, the controversy, the death threats. I mean, there's been some top YouTubers who have flat out refused, like techie YouTubers, and I saw one who actually did a video announcing he was not going to be doing comparison videos on these because it was just too controversial. It just, some people are disappointed because they don't give the gaming performance, like it's not beating a brand new i7, but people are kind of misunderstanding that, yeah, those ones weren't supposed to be, it was all about the cores. These were going to be the ones for video production. Yeah, you can still game on them, and you can game on them really, really, really well, but it was more about the productivity. But, so anyway, regardless how you feel about the new Ryzens, blah, 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 what we've got here is an article from PC Gamer. And this is talking about the affordable line of chips, the Ryzen 5s, which are going to be arriving April 11th. So the big thing about the Ryzen 5s are that they have fewer cores, but they still have really fast clock speeds, and they're fully unlocked. So they've got a lot of different models. They're going to have 2 models that have 4 cores, but with SMT, so 8 threads, which is the same as, an i7 at the minute. And then they're also going to have 2 chips that are 6 core, so 12 threads. And that's quite, interesting. And so these are going to be more affordable than the top line stuff. If I pull up the screen here just real quick, you can see these are in dollars. But like right now, the top of the line Ryzen 7 1800X, which is 8 core, 16 thread, 16 megabytes of level 3 cache, and has a clock range of 3.6 to 4 gig. That's priced at $499, and that's pretty, exceptional. Now, if you wanted to get a 1600X, which is the same clock speed, but the same amount of level 3 cache, but the big difference is instead of 8 core 16 thread, it's 6 core 12 thread. It's half the price. So if you're a gamer, what difference is having 2 less cores gonna make? Almost none. Because let's be honest, most games at the moment, they're not even taking full advantage of quad cores. So as a gamer, that's a great option. If we go even cheaper, to the 1500X, which is only 4 core. It's slightly slower. It's only clocked at 3.5 to 3.7, but they're saying that's going to be $190. I mean, it's really, really interesting. What's going to be interesting is what people do with these chips. They're going to overclock them. They're going to water cool the living hell out of them. And I think that in the past has been like the magic of AMD. They've offered processors that are inexpensive that can actually perform really well. At least they used to years ago. They kind of lost their way the last few years. But really, really quite interesting. It'd be really, I would love to build a Ryzen system just to kind of see, especially when the new the Vega video cards, the AMD video cards come out, because because of what they're doing with what's the name of that goddamn API they've got? The Mantle. Like Battlefield 1 on PC is Mantle compatible. So it's optimized for AMD graphics cards and AMD processors. So it'll be interesting. So they're coming in April, and they're claiming that the Ryzen 5 1600X, which is the 6-core 12-thread, the $250 one, is up to 69% faster than a Core i5 7600K. And that's quite a big deal. You know, because an i5 7600K is over $300, I'm pretty sure. Or no, it's actually... No, it's the same price point. It's $250. But the Ryzen one is 69% faster in Cinebench, which is crazy. But so there you go. Ryzen. Well, but what, Jay, if you had an inordinate amount of cash and you were going to build a new computer, what would you be tempted to do the new AMD stuff, or would you just stick with like a nice new...
I don't know, I think I'd have to see overall. Because obviously I haven't been keeping up to this stuff recently that much, to be fair. A lot of it's been coming from what you've been talking about, and obviously having these streams, but I don't know. I've always liked... I think the big thing I've always liked Intel. They look like they could be decent. It looks like obviously AMD are have a much better chance now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like reading this again, like looking at obviously what, as you say, there's quite a mixed review, isn't there, for the gaming side of things. Which obviously for me be what I'd mainly use at the moment, a PC4. I'd be the same. I'd be half tempted to almost give it a go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was thinking, like, even from your side of things, like with doing, you know, like programming, like mucking around in Unity or
that's the thing,
3D
like,
rendering, you know, the thought of having... Because remember, to get an Intel with a whole amount of cores, you're looking at the Broadwells and stuff like that, right? And those chips are over 1,000 just for the CPU.
Well,
and to be able to get, you know, a processor that actually has more threads,
yeah,
for half the price, that's interesting.
I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? A lot of people look at these sort of powerful things for gaming and not what else they can be used for, which is because it's actually quite funny. I mean, if you look at what power would be required for a gaming PC compared to that of, for example, a system that was going to render in mental ray, whatever I used.
Oh god,
like
yeah.
1080p videos with like high definition, or even in this case probably rendering 4K stuff now.
Yeah.
With proper shadowing and lighting and everything. I mean, I remember doing in uni, we were being told how much this affects the system by, I think it was, we were rendering in, using Autodesk Maya, we were rendering in mental ray, full 1080p, full light and shadows, and this was 3 apples on a table. I don't think they had any texturing on. And bear in mind, this is 3 apples on a table sort of thing with lighting coming from, which is that's like mental ray lighting, all that sort of stuff. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct, that took about 20 minutes to render. And that's something as simple as that. I mean, you can almost, I don't know if, I'm pretty sure I've heard of the term used before. I'm pretty sure it's done. It's almost like a render farm where it's just loads of PCs.
Yes.
Or even like massive amounts of processing raw power to allow this to be done properly.
Pixar and Disney animated stuff at the moment.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You look at Avatar, it took months upon months to render that film.
People just look at it from a gaming point of view. If you look at it from that of, say, an almost media point of view, so for things like rendering, if you're doing like big stress tests, almost like programming in some respects as well, I suppose, anything like that, yeah, then you'd need all that sort of power.
Yeah, it's, I mean, even like if you've ever seen, there's a program called Blender, right?
Yeah.
That, I mean, I'm by no means do I know how really to do that shit, but I'd found somewhere like an intro kind of video thing that was, you know, so you could, if I opened it in Blender, then I could change it, you know, so I could put my name in it, right? Yeah. And then I had to re-render it. And I mean, we're talking a little intro video that, okay, it was kind of 3D and, you know, shiny things and particle effects and music in it. But it must have only lasted about 6 or 7 seconds. And on my friggin' i7, that took like 3 hours to render. You know, I mean, it's like, holy shit, you know, so yeah, I know where you're coming from. I mean, that's a reason why you look at those pro computers. I mean, how expensive are those video cards? the GeForce Pro series were like $3,000 a pop.
Yeah, they're ridiculous amount. It's like, I don't know if my PC mucking up, but it's another good example. Back when I was new, my PC was a lot less powerful. I used to do level design in what was the Unreal 3 engine. I think the Unreal 4 came out a while back. And it was, I don't know what it was with my PC. I think it was to do with, obviously in this case, RAM size. Like, you look at games, for example, you need RAM, but not a great deal of it. But
yeah.
I was doing this Unreal stuff, and because of all the packages I had to load in to get hold of files I needed, if I loaded too many in to look at files from these packages, my Unreal would crash and I'd have to reopen it. So I had to like constantly save, because if I had these packages loaded in and I was like, I didn't know a package loaded in with loads of different like textures and model files and stuff, my PC would just go, fuck you, not doing it. But uni, when they're a bit more powerful, I think, it's fine. Could load them all in, no problems at all in it. It was so frustrating, but...
What about yourself, Gim? If you had, the money there, like someone goes, here you go, here's a few grand, build a PC, would you be kind of steering more towards Intel for its known stability and ease to set up? Or would you think of I'll get more bang for my buck with AMD?
I would pay for someone who actually knows.
I love that.
Expertise.
Perfect answer. You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think...
Why do you think I chose this moment for a piss?
I think, AMD, a lot of people, if they're old enough, will remember their rocky history. That back in the day, like, Intels were so easy to use, right? You just plugged it in a motherboard and it kind of recognized it. But back in the day, you actually had to get a driver for your CPU in an AMD system. And getting your CPU to talk to your motherboard was actually sometimes problematic. AMDs used to be unstable, but this is what's funny. That's why back in the day, the enthusiasts, like, the techies, the guys who cut the holes and put plexiglass windows in before you could buy them, that was the crew who used AMDs, because they were finicky, they were tricky. It was like having, instead of buying, like a nice sports car, like from an established company, the AMD guys were those folk that, got like an old Cosworth and just, turbocharged the living hell out of it. Yeah, sometimes the fucker wouldn't even start, but when it did, it just, tore down the track. But it'll be interesting to see how the AMDs pop along. Right, well, the last article this evening is from Eurogamer, and it's a game that, I really wanted to buy this game, but I didn't, and the reason being, I was one of those, I know a lot of kids out there kind of grew up on Dungeons and Dragons, and sure, I played D&D as well, but not till I was later. My first love when I was a kid was Warhammer. I think that's the thing. Here in the UK, it's more common for us. In the US, it is picking up, but see, like when I first moved to the States in '91, no one was playing Warhammer at that time. So like, I just, never continued my my 40k tabletop gaming. But yeah, so Space Hulk Deathwing was the latest game that had came out just in this past December, and when you looked at it, when you saw the previews of it, the graphics looked amazing. It just looked like it was going to be, really a 40k game that would do the franchise justice. Because if we're honest, there's been a lot of turds along this road of Games Workshop video games.
Especially more recently, would have been shoveling out the license to whoever wants it.
Yeah.
It used to be a bit more keep hold of it.
But yeah, so Space Hulk Deathwing had a lot of promise, and unfortunately, when it released, there's been a lot of issues. There's been kind of issues with the engine. There's been even people with monster systems have been having performance issues. The AI had folk were saying the AI was really, really basic. There wasn't any variation in enemy tactics. It was so there's a lot of things, and to give the devs credit, you know, they said that look, you know, hey, they're on it. We're trying to. They've actually been releasing beta builds to players to actually, you know, play and you know, hash out, you know, test it and whatnot. And I've been really tempted this week because it's currently on sale on Steam. They've got 33% off. So over here it's 20 quid. Well, 20.99. And it's been, you know, thinking about it, but I still think no, not yet. What I'm interested in, because basically, well, the news article itself was saying, look, Deathwing just got a big update, right? A huge update that's addressed a lot of technical issues, a lot of things, and hopefully, you know, it makes it a little bit better. But what I'm actually interested in is that later this year, they're saying an enhanced edition is going to be coming out on console.
Yeah, they said they were waiting for the console one to actually basically fix it, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially just a beta and everything on PC, but you just pay in. It was released far too early.
Yeah. No, I think that's
It's
a good
shame,
way to
it's
describe
like
it.
it can be great, and you get to be Deathwing Terminators.
Mm-hmm. Which, hey, I know you were. I was a Dark Angels man. You were as well, were you not?
Yeah, they even got the Forge World.
Now I was playing Ultramarines for a while.
Oh,
Who were you, Jay?
Vanilla Marines.
Yeah, pretty much.
Although they're getting all the fish.
Good old Ultramarines.
Oh, see, well, you know, they get.
And then I moved on to Tau.
Yeah, Sea Tower, cool. I'd who was it that I always wanted to do? See, it was like now with all the stuff that came out, I mean, like
Try Salamanders.
Oh, the Demon Hunters and like because I remember I had
Grey Knights are nice.
because I played you know, obviously like Space Crusade and Advanced Space Crusade and of course Space Hulk, the original board games and whatnot, and I had a Grey Knight model before Grey Knights were even like in any of the rule sets. Like they didn't actually exist. They came out with a figurine for a Grey Knight, but it wasn't usable anywhere.
Yeah, they did the same with the Necron Pariahs.
Yeah, and
In the game.
I always remember, I absolutely loved this Grey Knight that I had because I think it was in one of the. Did your Games Workshop used to have like a bargain bin? You know, like where you went in.
No, actually, these are the two nearest ones did.
Okay, this would have been 80s, so might have been a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I was a bit before.
Yeah.
I was born at the end of the 80s.
Yeah, see, so, but anyway, I got like, you know, on offer, and you know, even at that, remember, because they were the old lead ones, you know, they came, you opened them up, and they were crap. You had to file off, you know, all the shit that was there to get them looking right before you could even paint them. But I loved the concept of Grey Knights, and then even like during some of the novels or novellas, you know, just reading about Grey Knights, and then to see, like, fast forward to the recent, you know, a few years ago when they introduced, you know, Grey Knights, like actual sets of them and stuff. Oh God, yeah, that'd be nice. But yeah, I've still got all my stuff. I tweeted all the pictures of my stuff at you ages ago.
Yeah.
They're still there. They're up in their little case, just hiding away.
Picture of my Venerable Dreadnought. I love that.
Yes, yeah, you did. Remember that. But no, I mean, did you ever look much at that game, Jay, Space Hulk Deathwing, or was it something that wasn't really on your?
I'm trying to remember if I did or not. I can't. Was it almost? I want to say it's almost. Was it almost a grid-based sort of thing, or am I thinking of a different game?
You might be thinking there was. I mean, it has been like a Space Hulk game prior, but this one.
I don't know if I looked at Deathwing.
This one still looked like a.
Have a quick look. Be able to tell.
It looked more like a first-person, like live action, because you know, Space Hulk was always turn-based, and I think technically it still is, but it's done in a way that's seamless, so it is live action. that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think like behind the scenes it's still doing, you know, like turn-based stuff, but it looked cool. I mean, it's got multiplayer, which I'm pretty sure is co-op only. But it was the graphics.
Yeah, it's co-op only.
It was the videos of the gameplay before it came out that just had me drooling. They just looked amazing. They looked amazing.
Not representative of what's been released, of course.
Well, yeah.
The aesthetic is still nice.
Devs never do that, do they? The lies. Oh god, yeah.
Excuse me,
Well,
I've got a bit of a cold.
Division as well.
Ubisoft. Nasty cough I've got going. Anyway.
Anyway.
This update.
Yeah, Space Hulk 1 was the one that I was, as you say, was thinking of. So I haven't actually looked. I've just had a quick look at the gameplay for Deathwing.
I think,
Most of it is fixes, but they did add a couple of weapons.
yes, because that's been a big
A heavy
complaint.
flamer.
How can I'm trying to get my head around this? How in the hell did a game ship that has Deathwing Terminators not include a heavy flamer? Like, explain
You're on a
that
space
to me.
hole, so that's tight. And
Well, yeah,
Tuesday.
but no, because the original board game of Space Hulk, right? The original one, you only had two weapon options. You had the normal, was it the Storm Bolter that the
Yeah.
Terminators had, and it was funny because remember there were plastic characters. They had the heavy flamer, and it slid over. It just slid over the heavy bolt, the Storm Bolter. So in the original Space Hulk, those were the only two weapons you had, was either Storm Bolter or heavy flamer. So the fact that they didn't even have it in this game just blows my mind. It blows my mind.
And they say the other weapon they've they've just called it the Hellfire, which I assume would mean Hellfire rounds for the Stormbolt.
Must be. I don't know. So much has changed. So much has changed in that game.
They originally were for heavy bolters, but they call them explosive rounds when actually they were more like acid rounds.
True.
They're designed for killing Tyranids, so that would make sense. You would also expect them to use that as their base ammunition. Because if you're going after a space hulk with Tyranids, you take your Tyranid fighting weapons.
Yes.
You don't take your Orc killing weapons. You don't take your Chaos killing weapons.
It's very true. Very true. Oh, well, gentlemen, that is about the hour mark. And while we could talk about a bunch of other pish, we've kind of went through all our news topics for this evening.
Yeah. Faster than an hour. That's good.
You know, that's not bad. That's fair. That's fair. As always, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on Jungle Drums. It's always nice to have a chat about stuff. Just,
Anytime. It's
you know,
always good.
especially when usually we're just kind of playing games and bitching, you know. So it's nice to have a conversation. That's a lie. We have conversations all the time. Anyway, hey, if you've watched us on demand, thank you so much for catching up on the show. You know, all the usual stuff. Hey, like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. If you've been watching us live, you know, hey, thanks for tuning in. As always, every Thursday at 9 p.m. and that's GMT time in the homeland, in the UK, right? 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. You know, likewise, if you want to actually get on Jungle Drums, then all you need to do is contact me. Do the usual types of ways. You can either put a little comment down in the comments on YouTube. You can tweet at me if you think you've got some ideas. Likewise, if you think that my layout is crap and the graphics suck, hey, okay, do better then. Help me out, please. You know, it'd be great. Anyway, that's us. That's Jungle Drums for this week, and we shall see you again next Thursday. Let's say bye, guys.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Every day is a new dream.